Hello and welcome back to Game Vitamins. My name is Nick, and in today's video we are going to be going over the ultimate pricing guide for cards on TCGPlayer. I have gotten a lot of questions about making this video. What have I done to price my cards over my time as a seller, how that has changed, and I figured today's video would be a great way to summarize everything that I have done up until this point, break it down from early levels as a seller, 1 through 4 on TCGPlayer, all the way to direct, including obviously marketplace for a lot of you sellers, and how I currently price my cards on direct as well. This is going to be a laptop video where I bring you down. We'll take a look at how I export all of my items, how I price them myself, some of the formulas I use, and pretty much all of that good stuff. So hopefully you can learn something from this, whether or not you focus on Magic the Gathering or some other TCG. But without further ado, let's dive right into it. First, if you are new here, my channel goes over building a Magic the Gathering business. Again, focusing on Magic the Gathering from the ground up. So if that interests you, please feel free to subscribe, like the video, follow along. It means a lot, and we have built a really cool seller community here. So come along for the ride. And if you're a returner, yeah, thank you. As always, I always appreciate it a lot. So let's get right into it. This was sparked by some patron questions, and yeah, we want to dive into the pricing. So let's get right into it. Okay, so we are going to talk about the different levels of sellers, and with that comes different needs or strategies. So when we are looking at pricing strategy, what really matters is what your end goal is. Now, I want to touch on those early levels as a seller, because a lot of you are just starting up, levels 1 through 4, or well, really levels 1, 2, and 3, where you don't have access to CSVs and importing through scanning and exporting your whole inventory to change your pricing. So I don't want to make this a speed running 1 through 3 video, but I want to touch on it very quickly. If this doesn't apply to you, feel free to skip forward. Things will be time-stamped down below. But for any of you new sellers, someone who is just getting into it, someone who wants to learn all of the nuances, and in this case is checking out pricing strategy videos, first of all, good for you for checking this out. That's awesome, because this is going to be the way you need to think about selling moving forward. But given the situation that you're in right now, that your inventory is limited, that you can't mass upload cards, that you can't adjust your pricing in one foul swoop in a CSV file, given all of that, I would not focus on pricing strategies right now. Really, what I would give as my piece of advice here, and what I tell all of my patrons, everyone in the comments, speed run it. Just find cards that are middle of the road value, but have sell through. Make sure you undercut by a penny or two, and set cheap shipping. This is not where you're going to be making your money on levels 1, 2, and 3. It really starts at level 4. So in terms of pricing strategy at low levels, that is really the biggest piece of advice I can give. Try not to count your dollars and cents too much until you get to level 4. You're going to just want to get there as fast as you can so you can start utilizing tools that will help you sell more and more cards. And by trying to squeak out every dime or every buck on high-end cards when you're a new seller and you don't have that much, you're not super reputable. I mean, you probably are, but it's just when someone looks at you and you have 10 sales, 0 feedback, and you're selling high-end cards and trying to expand margins, people just won't be jumping on that. So again, high sale velocity cards, meaning cards that sell frequently, they sell often, list those, sell at a cheaper rate, and yeah, I would say that is about it in terms of pricing strategy for levels 1, 2, and 3. I don't want this to become a whole tutorial. That might be a later video. So let's move on to TCG marketplace sellers. This is where you really need to start thinking about what your goal is by selling. Now, I have some notes over here on my laptop. Again, I'm going to take you down to the computer. We're going to look at the spreadsheets. We're going to pretty much do exactly what I did and touch on just about every aspect. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the two main strategies here. So again, it's all based off of what your goal is from selling and what your access to product looks like. And the reason I bring up those two things is because if your goal is to do this as a side gig, make a little side money, you're not trying to have this take over your evenings or your life, and you're not trying to pack dozens and dozens and dozens of orders every single day, which you totally can. Go back to my video where I packed hundreds in a weekend. It was a good weekend. But if you don't want to do that, you're going to want to take the approach of higher priced product, higher floor prices as well. Now, what does that mean? You want to start looking at your product not just like you're competing to the lowest listing. You want to look at it as the TCG marketplace prices. Not that someone has a card listed for 50 cents, but if the marketplace cost is 80 cents and you want to move your cards at a bit of a premium, they will sell at higher prices. And this is the strategy that I took from the very beginning. If you've watched my videos, you know that I have ranted and raved about the idea of a wide inventory. And that helps a lot when this is going to be your strategy. Pricing cards a bit higher. You'll have competitive shipping rates, but you may go 10-15% over market. You're looking to expand your margins and not necessarily turn over crazy volume, but ensure that whatever you're turning over has a very good rate of return. The problem with this is if you're trying to scale very quickly and sell very high volume of cards, it just won't happen as much because you are pricing yourself at a premium. But what this would look like for the average person may be that you don't have abundant access to inventory right now. You have maybe Rudy's monthly subscription. You're in a few other distribution groups. You pick up deals when you can find them online that have strong EVs, but you're not trying to hunt out deals every single day. So what I would say to you is expand your inventory base as much as you can. Because when you compare this card and this card together as a potential sale, oh, those are both two Vivian Reeds. Okay, let's grab two different cards. This, if you have one card listed, you have one opportunity at a sale. If you have two cards listed, you could sell either individually or both as a pair. When you start adding in more and more cards, you create different sale combinations and potential opportunities to offload cards to different customers. So when I first started, I wanted to set a higher premium on my cards, but I wanted to have every set imaginable. Let's say you want to get into this and you want to price at a premium. Heck, I would say go out and buy one box of every recent set and list every single card. Is it going to necessarily be a home run? Are you going to make all of your money back in that first go? No, not necessarily. But this is a marathon, not a sprint, and you need to be able to put money in to get money out. As with any business, you can watch other videos where I talk about this. So the pricing strategy and product strategy in this case would be that you want to go in and have a very wide inventory base. You want to create a lot of potential combinations across all of your inventory from recent sets. Maybe you think, okay, well, what's standard legal? I'm going to focus only on what is standard legal right now, and keep at least 4 of every single card. That would then allow you to probably keep a higher price point, because when someone goes in and fills out their cart, the card optimizer is a nice tool, and it helps us sellers a lot, because if you have a huge inventory base with, knocking cards over, with a lot of different options, then in that case, there's a higher probability that the card optimizer is going to favor your inventory base over others. And that is solely because you have a lot of the options. People are much more apt to buy 8 cards from you versus 1 of each card from 8 different vendors. Clearly, it's because of the shipping costs, So you don't need to go crazy on your shipping here, but you can expand your margins on the cards, which helps cover your shipping, and in general will generate more steady growth at higher rates of return. So that is goal number 1. I know this was a little bit of a rant, but I'm really trying to dive in as deep as I can. I get asked this question a lot, so I hope that this is helpful. If it is so far, please give me a thumbs up. It helps a lot as we grow this channel and try to shed a little bit of light on the industry for anyone who wants to get into it. So the other side of it as a marketplace seller, keep in mind, we're going to go to the laptop. It's just that that's a lot quicker, showing you the spreadsheets and how to mass update all of your pricing. But again, you need to understand, why are you taking certain approaches that you are. So the other way you could go is you have higher access to product, or more available product at your disposal. Maybe you know someone that has a store that is able to get you favorable prices and wants to help you out in your singles game. All hypothetical. But let's just say you are bringing in a lot of product. You want to be turning over a lot of cards to scale your operation. And this is pretty much like any business, right? Some people focus in on what I just described, higher margins, lower volume. Other people go the volume game. You need to have a lot of access to product to be able to pull it off. But I feel that in my case, I started to shift to this because I wanted to really ramp up my overall card sales and be able to go towards the direct route of things. So what that looks like is essentially keeping your cards relatively competitive to market pricing, and then setting maybe a slightly lower floor just so you can keep your inventory turnover at a high rate. And in that case, yes, you might be hurting your margins slightly, but if you're turning over a much, much, much higher volume, then obviously that can outpace the increased margins. It all just depends on what you are trying to achieve through your own situation. So that one probably doesn't take as much time to explain realistically. You're just going slightly lower price and higher volume. So let's talk numbers, direct, like hard numbers, because this is always what everyone wants. What is my floor price? What do you set that to? So floor price, if you are going the wide inventory, slower turnover rate, I would say look in the range of the mid-20s. 25 cents is always a great floor price. Will every card sell at 25 cents? No, not every card will. But if a card that you were originally calculating to be 2, 3, 4, 5 cents can sell at a quarter, which they do, trust me. I've sold so many cards at a very inflated price, and that is solely because I had so many of them and that wide inventory base. So if it was a 5-cent card and you're selling it for 25 cents, realistically, you've 5x'd your return on that bulk card. Same thing with a card that was worth a penny that you're selling for 25 cents. 25x. So These are the things you want to keep in mind and play around with. I mean, what I say in this video is not rock solid. It is not the concrete answer, because once I say everyone set it to a quarter, one of you guys is going to drop it to 24 cents, and then someone's going to drop it to 23, and then it becomes the race to the bottom. But try not to have that attitude, because there's always going to be competition. But if you're willing to wait and expand your inventory base, you don't need to worry about that as much. So shoot for the mid-20s to start. I think that is a very comfortable spot to be in. Mid-20s, I've gone down to 19 cents at times, but more so because I do direct now and I'm really trying to increase the volume. But I'd say a quarter is very fair. And if you want to offload certain cards that seem to just be piling up, then lower those individual cards. You can really tailor this to however you want it to be. So with all of that being said, we went over a little bit of the floor price there. We've talked a bit about the strategies, why you might be choosing certain ones over others. Let's take a look at how to actually price your cards. Now, we're going to go through this and do exactly what I do. I can't always be perfect in these videos, but I want to try to make it so you can really see the every step here. So let me set up a recording and we will jump right down to it. Okay, here we are, scrunched down, thrown in the corner, looking at TCGPlayer's pricing tab. So from here, nothing crazy. You've already uploaded your cards. We're not teaching you how to upload here. We're just talking pricing. So what I'll do is I will just go and hit export from live. Yes, groundbreaking stuff. I know that some people will export filtered CSVs. It depends on how big your inventory is. But for now, export from live will do the trick. So let's now swap over to the Excel spreadsheet. Here we are in Excel. You can see as I open this up, you have all of your set names, your different cards that are in your inventory. You have your total quantity, what would be added to that quantity if you were adjusting this, and of course, your pricing data. Now, this is going to be still talking about TCG marketplace sellers. So direct low doesn't really matter for us right now, but we will be diving into that a little later in the video. I know we've already been going on for a little bit here, but I really want to make this as fleshed out as possible. So we're not doing any rocket science here, guys. You can use Excel, you can import this to Google Sheets and use Google Sheets. It all works. Google Sheets is free, so feel free to do that. I just have Excel through my other businesses, so I just use it every day. But what I would do is I would export this. I will first filter the data just to ensure that I'm looking at pretty much the highest price cards first. And you'll see why shortly. So now we have it sorting here. We did pull a lot of bloodthirsty conquerors the other day, opened up a ton of boxes of foundations, worked out great. So if I were to be setting my prices to marketplace prices, these are direct prices. You can tell I'm going at a percentage over direct low, but again, let's focus on your TCG market price. Now, if you want to keep this simple, easy, straightforward, what I always did was I would make it equal to about 10 to 15% over the current market price. So that would just be something like the TCG market price times 1.1, which would give you 10% over. You can double click in the corner and boom, it applies it to every single cell. You do not need TCG Pro. It's unnecessary for small sellers because you can do this and it takes a couple minutes to overhaul all of your pricing. You could do it twice a day, 3 times a day. You could do it once per day, whatever you want to do. Just don't give up the extra percentage for mass price. It's not really worth it. So there we go. we have already applied this to every single card in the inventory. Now, you notice I said, well, what about cards that are under 25 cents? I want a 25-cent floor price on all of my cards. Now, yes, you could do if statements. I do that for my direct pricing, but we are going to keep it simple here. Now, let's just go in. We're looking at the data here. We are going to just bring it down so it looks like a normal currency amount. We will then, just for good measure, sort again by descending value. And then I just simply scroll down to the point in which it would drop below 25 cents. Okay, here we are at 24 cents. Set this to 25. And again, double tap, boom. Everything below is 25 cents. Done. That is it. That is it, guys. We just put a 10% premium on every card and set a floor price of 25 cents. So I would then save that, go back to TCGPlayer. Let me just pull it up right now. Here we are back at TCGPlayer. I would then import to staged, select the file, and then move to live. Boom, we're done. You can do this in a minute. It takes no time at all. And then you can tailor this to whatever you want it to be. So realize that this is not all that complicated. I'm not doing rocket science here. So you could change these numbers around. It's a CSV, so it will automatically turn this back into a CSV, so everything will import just fine. And you could say change this to 15%. You could do 5%. You could do 25%. All it is changing equations and applying it to every single cell. So that is pretty much it in terms of how you actually set your prices once you are level 4 seller. Super simple. I can't stress that enough. So without further ado, I feel like I always say that. Let's move on to TCG Direct. We've been going on for a little while here. If this is the ultimate pricing guide, then as of, March 2025, subject to change, then we got to touch on Direct as well, because that is what I'm doing, and we won't go on about it for as long, because not as many of you are in Direct, and also, realistically, now that you kind of understand the thought process behind why you would choose one strategy over another and how to quickly update it, it's really not that much different. So this is going to shut off in like a minute, so let me re-up it and we will talk about Direct. Okay, TCGPlayer Direct. Pricing. How do we handle this? Again, it's not that much different. Realistically, TCG Direct gives you much, much higher sales velocity. You are going to sell so many more cards, and it's not as contingent on people pairing up different cards of yours to create different sale potential. What I went over before, one more time, just in case anyone skipped over it. If you have 3 different cards, how many different scenarios of sales do you have? You could sell them all individually. You could sell different pairs of cards, or you could sell them all together. So in that case, when you switch to Direct, this is not as pressing. Sorry, I want to make sure I put them back where I found them. So this is not as pressing with Direct, and the reason is because the card optimizer doesn't matter as much. Realistically, what you are worrying about at that point is truly the price, because with Direct, they are fulfilling the order. So how do we navigate this? Do we undercut all of the Direct low? Do we, what happens if there aren't any cards on Direct? How would you price your cards then? So I think that the best way for me to explain my Direct pricing is actually probably to bring you back down to the computer. But before I do, I just want to say that sometimes when you're going through the exported data that TCG will give you, you will find that not every card has Direct pricing. So from my experience thus far, On average, direct prices tend to be 20 to 25% higher than the marketplace prices. Sometimes it is exorbitantly more, or sometimes it's actually less. Depends on the type of card and the price point. But if there is nothing in there, I will then put in, and this is where it'll get a little more complicated with if statements and how it actually will set your price, but I will typically add a 20 to 25% premium over marketplace prices to those cards that don't have direct data. As for direct, I don't bother with direct low. I know that I have multiple quantities of a lot of these cards. Again, you saw over there that I had 5 different Bloodthirsty Conquerors. So am I going to price my cards lower than direct low when I have 5 cards that you could buy and get it all from one seller? Or will that one sell and next thing I know, I'm the next lowest? So I'm not necessarily looking to turn over every single card as fast as I can. I'm trying to hit a happy medium where I'm still getting an increased margin and turning over a sustainable amount of cards that I can replenish at a rate that works for me. So this is where you really start dialing in what works for you, because one size does not fit all. Some people are okay with listing 1-cent cards on direct. Some people have floor prices of 5 cents, 10 cents. It varies from person to person, and again, what your access to product looks like, how much you can handle personally. And this is where, unfortunately, I can't give the perfect answer. I can just show you what I do, what I prefer, and sort of go from there. So let's go down to the computer and start dialing in our pricing for direct and show you some of these examples. Okay, here we are back down on the Excel spreadsheet, exact same data. You can see nothing has really changed here. But what we're going to be looking at now is the TCG direct low. So there are low prices for most of these cards, and you can see that there are premiums on pretty much all of these. Some of them are smaller than others, and some of them definitely have quite the gap. Some, though, you can see don't actually have any pricing data. This is what I was talking about. Stuff that might need to be marked up 20, 25, maybe even 30% over TCG market, because you will be the only one and you will be direct low. So in that case, if anyone's ordering from direct and wants that card, realistically, they're probably going to pay for it, because unless the difference between shipping cost and card price is like shipping cost plus the card price is still lower than your direct number, they're going to choose direct. So how do we make sure that our pricing data doesn't accidentally pick these up and just set your card to 0? So let's dive in to how I do my pricing with if statements. This might get a little complicated, but just follow along, look at the bar up here, and pretty much, you know what, I will copy, since this is standardized when you export for the cells as well, I will copy and paste the formula just so you could literally drop it in there and see how the cells interact with each other. Some people are not as, not as familiar with Excel or Sheets, so I get that. Now, what I would be looking at is when we are setting our prices, I want to first take a look at the direct low. If that is equal to 0, then the first thing I want it to do is check the TCG market price to ensure that I am picking a value that is over that and not just 0. Because if you were to have 0 times 1.05, so 5% premium, it's still 0. So you don't want to accidentally shoot yourself in the foot and sell cards for nothing. So in this case, I would then take a look at the market price. If that is lower than, let's say, 19 cents, then I want it to set it to 19 cents. So what's happening here is if direct low, sorry, I'm kind of pointing with my finger, but I should really be using the mouse. If direct low is 0, then it will take a look at this number. If that is less than 19 cents, it will then set it to be 19 cents. But if it's not 19 cents if it's greater than 19 cents and this is 0, then I want it to have a 25% premium. Okay, good. So what if TCG Direct does have a value? So in that case, we're going to say if the direct value is lower than 19 cents, then again, we'll set it to 19 cents. But if there is a direct low value, we want to set a 5% premium over that. So now, right there, you have the formula that I use to reprice my cards every single day. You can adjust these percentages, these floor prices, to be whatever you want them to be. Again, it depends on what your goals are. Are you going to try to just go 1% over low? Are you going to go just 10% over market? Do you want to set even a lower floor, a higher floor? What are your goals from all of this? Because you will see how the market reacts as you adjust your pricing. And at the end of the day, I just can't give the answer to everyone. So this is what I do. And when I apply it, I can then just double click. It applies that equation to every single cell. And you can see right down here where there was, down here where there was no direct data, what it did was it added 25% over market, and that is what will be uploaded to my pricing. So there you have it. Let me X out of that, and we will again sort in descending fashion, and we can see all of our prices are updated. And if we scroll all the way down, sorry to make you nauseous, you can see nothing goes below 19 cents in that situation. So there you have it. That is how I price my direct cards, how I was pricing my marketplace cards, and I hope that this has shed some light on how you want to look at pricing, because it does differ for everybody. Now, one extra tip I want to throw in here, something that if you've made it this far, this will save you some money. Now, you want to look at the TCGPlayer, if you're selling on direct, let me add that. If you're selling on direct, you want to look at the different brackets in which they charge different levels of fees. So up to $3, it is 50%. And then beyond $3, the formula changes. I don't want to dive into the nitty gritty here, but essentially you want to be looking for a few like pivotal price points, and that is $3 and $20 to start. So what I then do here is if there's anything that's close to the $20 mark, you can see that people in direct low, which this is actually me, I believe, go below 20 because I don't remember the number off the top of my head. I just wanted to throw this in there. Something like $22 for a card is the same amount of, you would receive the same amount of money as if you sold it for $19.99. Let's just say it's 22. So there's no point in listing it for $20.99 like it's showing here, because you'd actually make less money selling it for $20.99 than you would for $19.99. So these are a few things you're going to want to research to make sure that you are pricing your cards correctly. So if I see this, I will typically drop it down. Oh, not $1.99. I will drop it down below 20, and then I'll just, oh my gosh, wow, I usually don't mess it up that much, but you'll see I'll just apply that hard-coded number to everything in that range. Now, I don't really need to worry about anything until we get to the $3 range. Again, up until about, see, someone has this at $3.14 as their direct low. They will make less money than if that was at $2.99. So what I will do is, even at $3.30, yes, call me crazy, but the math checks out. I will drop all of the cards below $3.30 to $2.99 until I hit something that is at $2.99. Okay, there we go. So I have updated my pricing to ensure that I am not spending excess fees, and we have curated our formulas to best suit our needs, and that is repricing. I feel that some parting notes here. I feel that sometimes people think of it as like this really abstract process, but realistically, pricing product in such a highly liquid environment. And what I mean is that I could list this pile of mythics over here from foundations and sell them in just a couple of days if I really wanted to. So I always say just start high, adjust your prices accordingly, figure out what works for you, because you might price your cards in such a way that you sell out of your inventory and then you don't know what to do. So you could have just made a higher margin, done a little less packing work, spread that out over time, and it's just, again, whatever suits your situation. I'm trying to sell very high volumes of cards. So with that being said, I might be taking lower margins at times, but it is getting me to my end goal of high volume, lower margin. That is not for everybody. So I know I've reiterated it so many times, but just take that into account, because if you're not ready to sell out all of your inventory and do all of that work, then you probably want to just expand your margins as much as you can. You might as well. There's no rush, you know. A card in your inventory is worth whatever it's worth. You can always sell it for less than the market price and get your cash out of it. But why not just let it sit a little bit longer at a premium until someone buys it? Inevitably, they sell. Everyone will tell you that. Everyone in my Patreon, in Discord, they all say the same thing. So I really hope this helped everybody, whether you are focusing on Magic or other card games, whatever it might be. I hope this was helpful. I've been getting so many questions on pricing, and I think this encapsulates pretty much everything that I have done thus far. Again, it's not rocket science, but I think it's a good base to build off of, because then it just comes down to preference and scale. So that is going to be it for now. This is a very long video, one of my longest recently. I already know that. So thank you for anyone who stuck around. If you are interested in selling cards and joining a really cool, active community, consider joining the Discord. That is via my Patreon, $5 a month. We have a very, very cool community that is, every time I come back to it, there's just a million messages. Everyone's always talking with each other. It's awesome to see. I just love seeing everybody help each other out. And, you know, it's just always a lot to catch up on. But if you're in it already, thank you so much as always. It really does mean a lot. It's super cool. So that's going to be it for now. If you have anything else you want to see, any other tidbits of it that you need for advice, comment down below, or you can ask me directly if you join or whatever. And yeah, good luck. Keep on selling cards, keep on pushing cardboard, and we will catch you all in the next video. Thank you again so much for watching. Consider that like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We'll see you later. We'll see you in the next one.